The first story happened to a rideshare driver named Ethan during a winter storm outside Denver. Ethan had been driving for nearly 4 years, mostly at night. He preferred airport pickups and downtown passengers, but bad weather usually pushed him into the suburbs where fewer drivers were willing to work. On a Thursday evening in January, heavy snow began falling shortly after 10 p.m. By midnight, several highways were partially closed, and the rideshare app was offering unusually high bonuses. At 12:36 a.m., Ethan received a pickup request from a woman named Rachel. The location was a roadside motel near the edge of the city. The destination was a residential address 28 miles west, close to the foothills. The fare was high enough that Ethan accepted without hesitation. When he arrived, the motel parking lot was almost empty. Snow covered the faded lines, and only 3 rooms had lights on. Rachel was not waiting outside. Ethan sent a message. "I'm parked near the office." The reply came almost immediately. "Come to room 17. I have bags." Ethan normally refused to leave his vehicle, but the storm was getting worse, and he assumed the passenger needed help carrying luggage. He parked near room 17 and walked beneath the outdoor corridor. The curtains were closed. The door stood slightly open. Ethan knocked. A woman's voice answered from inside. "Can you come in for a second?" Ethan stepped back. "I can help with the bags, but you'll need to bring them to the door." There was no response. Then he heard someone whispering inside the room. It was too quiet to understand, but there were clearly at least 2 people. Ethan returned to his car and called Rachel through the app. A man answered. "She's coming," he said. Ethan asked why Rachel was not speaking. The man disconnected. 30 seconds later, the motel room door opened. A young woman stepped outside carrying no luggage. She wore jeans, a thin sweater, and no coat despite the freezing temperature. Her face was pale, and she kept looking over her shoulder. She climbed into the rear passenger seat. Ethan locked the doors and began driving. For the first 5 minutes, Rachel said nothing. She sat directly behind him, holding both hands tightly in her lap. Ethan asked whether she wanted the heat turned up. She shook her head. As they approached the highway, she leaned forward. "Don't take the route in the app," she whispered. Ethan glanced at her in the mirror. "Why?" She looked through the rear window. "They're following us." A dark pickup truck had pulled out of the motel parking lot shortly after they left. Ethan had noticed it, but assumed it was another guest. Now the truck remained 2 car lengths behind them through every turn. "Who are they?" Ethan asked. Rachel did not answer. The app recalculated the route and instructed Ethan to turn onto an unlit county road. Rachel grabbed the back of his seat. "Do not turn there." Ethan continued straight. The pickup truck followed. His phone rang through the rideshare app. The caller ID showed Rachel's account. Ethan looked at the woman in the mirror. "Is that your phone?" She shook her head. The call stopped, then started again. Ethan answered using the car's speaker. A man's voice filled the vehicle.
"Are you coming down or what?"
"You missed the turn." Ethan did not respond. The man spoke again.
But the paperwork is still messed
"You
up.
have something that belongs to us."
Sorted.
Rachel began crying silently. Ethan accelerated toward a 24-hour gas station visible in the distance. The pickup truck moved into the opposite lane and pulled alongside them, its passenger window lowered. A man wearing a black ski mask pointed what looked like a handgun toward Ethan's car. Ethan slammed on the brakes. The pickup overshot them. Ethan made a sharp U-turn and drove back toward the motel, nearly losing control on the snow-covered road. Rachel screamed at him not to stop. The pickup turned around behind them. Ethan called 911 and described the truck. The dispatcher directed him toward a police station 6 miles away, but Rachel suddenly reached over the seat and tried to grab his phone. "Don't call them," she said. Ethan pulled away from her. For the first time, her expression changed. The fear disappeared. She looked calm. Then Ethan heard a metallic click behind his right ear. Rachel was holding a folding knife. "Take the next turn," she said. At that moment, Ethan realized she was not escaping the men in the truck. She was working with them. Ethan kept both hands visible on the steering wheel and asked Rachel what she wanted. "Just drive," she said. The pickup truck reappeared behind them, no longer trying to hide. Its headlights flashed twice. The next road led away from the highway and into an industrial area filled with dark warehouses. Ethan knew that once he turned, there would be no businesses, cameras, or traffic for several miles. He slowed, as if preparing to follow her instructions. Then he pressed the emergency button built into the rideshare app. Rachel noticed the screen change. She pushed the knife against his neck. "I said no police." Ethan swerved hard toward the shoulder. Rachel lost her balance and struck the rear door. Ethan unlocked his seatbelt, opened the driver's door, and jumped while the car was still moving. He landed in the snow and rolled into a drainage ditch. The car continued another 30 feet before hitting a snowbank. Rachel climbed into the front seat, but the wheels were trapped. The pickup stopped behind her. Two men got out and ran toward Ethan's vehicle. Ethan crawled beneath a guardrail and hid among the frozen weeds. He heard the men arguing. One shouted that police were already coming. Another kicked the side of Ethan's car. Within minutes, sirens approached from the highway. The three suspects fled in the pickup. Officers later found it abandoned near an overpass. Its license plates had been stolen from a different vehicle. Police searched room 17 at the motel. Inside, they found zip ties, duct tape, prepaid phones, and several wallets belonging to other rideshare drivers. Investigators believed the group had been targeting drivers during storms because bad road conditions made witnesses less likely and delayed police response. Rachel's rideshare account had been opened using a stolen identity. None of the three suspects were identified. 3 months later, Ethan received an email saying a passenger had reported finding a lost item in his vehicle. The message included a phone number to arrange its return. Ethan never called it. The area code belonged to the same prepaid number used to create Rachel's account. The second story occurred in Phoenix during one of the hottest weeks of the year. Marissa had started driving for a rideshare company after losing her office job. She usually worked from late afternoon until 2:00 a.m. when the streets were quieter and airport rides paid well. At 1:14 a.m. on a Tuesday, she accepted a request from a gated neighborhood north of the city. The passenger's name was listed as Andrew. The destination was a 24-hour emergency clinic. When Marissa arrived, the pickup pin was located outside a large stucco house. The garage door was open, but the interior was dark. A man stepped from the side yard and approached the car. He appeared to be in his early 30s and wore hospital scrubs. He carried a black duffel bag and kept one hand pressed against his stomach. Marissa unlocked the rear door. "Are you okay?" she asked. "I cut myself at work," he said. "It's not serious." He sat behind her and placed the duffel bag on the floor. The clinic was 17 minutes away. For most of the trip, Andrew stared out the window and said nothing. Marissa noticed there was no blood on his clothing despite the way he held his stomach. Halfway there, the destination suddenly changed. The app now directed her to a rural address 40 miles south. Marissa looked at him in the mirror. "Did you update the destination?" Andrew nodded. "The clinic is closed. It says it's open 24 hours. Just follow the new route." Marissa pulled into a brightly lit convenience store and stopped near the entrance. "I'm ending the ride. Here." Andrew did not move. "You can't," he said. Marissa told him to leave the car. He reached forward and locked the doors using the control on the center console. Then he smiled. "You drivers always think the app protects you." Marissa pressed the horn and held it down. Two customers near the store entrance turned toward them. Andrew immediately unlocked the door and stepped out, leaving the duffel bag behind. He walked calmly around the building and disappeared. Marissa called police. When officers opened the bag, they found a roll of plastic sheeting, heavy-duty tape, gloves, a change of clothes, and a battery-powered stun device. There was also a photograph of Marissa entering her apartment building 3 nights earlier. Investigators asked Marissa whether she recognized Andrew. She did not. The pickup address did not belong to him. The homeowners were out of state and had no idea their property had been used to request a ride. Their garage had been forced open from the side, but nothing inside appeared stolen. Police traced the rideshare account to a disposable email address. Security footage from the convenience store captured Andrew's face clearly, but no match appeared in state or federal databases. Marissa stopped driving and moved to a different apartment. 6 weeks later, the rideshare company mailed her the personal belongings recovered from her vehicle. The package included a phone charger, sunglasses, and several receipts. At the bottom was a photograph that had not been there when police searched the bag. It showed Marissa standing beside the officers outside the convenience store. The picture had been taken from across the street after Andrew disappeared. The third story came from a driver named Caleb in Northern California. Caleb often accepted long-distance rides because he enjoyed driving at night. One Saturday, shortly after 11 p.m., he received a request from a train station in a small town outside Sacramento. The passenger was an older man named Victor. He wore a brown overcoat, carried a small suitcase, and spoke with a calm, polite voice. His destination was a remote house near a lake, almost 90 minutes away. Victor sat in the rear seat and immediately asked Caleb whether the vehicle had an interior camera. Caleb pointed to a small dash camera mounted near the rearview mirror. "It records the road and the cabin." Victor stared at it. "Does it upload automatically?" Caleb lied and said yes. For the next 40 minutes, Victor remained silent. The highway narrowed into a 2-lane road surrounded by pine trees. Cell service disappeared. Victor began giving directions that differed from the app. "The bridge ahead is closed," he said. "Turn right at the next road." Caleb checked the navigation. There was no closure warning. "I'll stay on the app route." Victor leaned forward. "You don't want to cross that bridge tonight." Caleb slowed. "What does that mean?" Victor sat back. "Nothing. Keep going." A few minutes later, they reached the bridge. It was open, but a vehicle was parked sideways near the far end with its hazard lights flashing. A man stood beside it, waving both arms. Caleb stopped at the entrance. Victor suddenly said, "Back up." The man near the disabled vehicle began walking toward them. Caleb reversed. Victor's voice became urgent. "Turn around now." Caleb completed a 3-point turn and drove back toward the highway. The stranded man ran to the parked vehicle, started it, and followed them. Caleb asked Victor if he knew the driver. "No." "Then why did you know the bridge was dangerous?" Victor did not answer. The vehicle behind them accelerated and came within a few feet of Caleb's bumper. Its headlights flashed repeatedly. Victor opened his suitcase. Caleb watched through the mirror. Inside were several stacks of cash, 2 passports, and a handgun. Caleb reached for the emergency button on his phone, but Victor raised the gun. "Keep driving." The pursuing vehicle moved alongside them. The driver, a man with a shaved head, pointed toward the shoulder. Victor lowered his window and fired once. The pursuing car swerved into the ditch. Caleb screamed and pressed the accelerator. Victor calmly closed the suitcase. "Take me back to the station." Caleb said nothing. He drove until the phone signal returned, then deliberately passed the train station exit and continued toward a highway patrol office. Victor noticed. He pressed the gun against the back of Caleb's seat. "You are making a mistake." Caleb looked at the dash camera. It already uploaded everything. Victor stared at the device. Then he opened the door while the vehicle was moving and jumped onto the shoulder. Caleb stopped at the patrol office and handed over the camera. The recording contained the entire ride, except for the moment Victor opened the suitcase. For nearly 4 minutes, the screen had gone completely black, while the audio continued normally. Police searched the roadside but found no sign of Victor. The vehicle that had crashed near the bridge was gone when officers returned to the area. They found one shell casing and tire marks leading into the ditch, but no blood and no debris. The passenger account had been created with a stolen credit card. The name Victor belonged to a man who had died 11 years earlier. Investigators never explained how the camera footage had been interrupted. Caleb's device was not connected to Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, and there was no evidence it had malfunctioned before or after the ride. 2 months later, Caleb received a 5-star rating from Victor's deleted account. The comment contained only 4 words: "You should have crossed." The 4th story happened in Atlanta to a driver named Noah. Noah worked early mornings beginning around 4 a.m. to catch airport traffic. One rainy Monday, he accepted a pickup from a luxury apartment building downtown. The passenger's name was Sophie. A woman in a red coat entered the rear seat at 4:22 a.m. She appeared nervous and repeatedly looked through the back window. Her destination was a private residence 25 minutes away. As Noah pulled into traffic, Sophie asked him to confirm his name. "Noah," he said. She compared his face to the profile photo on her phone. "Good. The other driver wasn't you." Noah asked what she meant. "The app showed your car, but another vehicle arrived first. The driver knew my name and said you had changed cars." Noah checked the mirror. "Did you get his plate?" Sophie shook her head.
Everything
"He
seems quiet
left
back there.
when you arrived."
Are you
Noah
sure we weren't
continued
followed?
toward the destination. A
Touch
black
it. I
sedan
was
pulled
just
away
holding it
from
and
the
it
curb
suddenly
behind them.
canceled.
Sophie
really need this
immediately
ride.
ducked below the window. "That's the car!" Noah called 911 using the hands-free
Not sure what
system.
happened after that.
The dispatcher asked for their location and instructed him to drive toward the nearest police station. The black sedan followed. At the next intersection, it pulled alongside them. The driver wore a baseball cap and kept his face turned away. The rear window was heavily tinted. The light changed. Noah accelerated. The sedan remained beside him, then moved ahead and blocked the lane. Noah turned onto a side street. The destination in the app suddenly disappeared. Sophie's account was canceled while she was still inside the vehicle. Noah looked at her through the mirror. "How can they cancel your ride?" Sophie stared at her phone. "I didn't." The dispatcher asked whether Sophie knew who might be following her. She hesitated. Then she said, "My husband." Noah asked whether she wanted to go to the police. She shook her head. "He is the police." The black sedan reappeared behind them. Sophie directed Noah toward a hospital instead. She said security would meet them at the emergency entrance. As they approached the hospital, the
Don't worry, I
sedan
got it.
stopped following.
All
Noah
right, I gotta
pulled
switch
beneath
over.
the
Just
bright
hold on.
ambulance bay lights and unlocked the
Hey,
doors.
are the parts ready? I
Sophie
need 'em now,
did not get
understand?
out.
Mike
She
went
stared
dead.
at the entrance and whispered,
Listen carefully,
"Those
they're onto
aren't
us. You have to
hospital
move now.
security." 2 men in dark uniforms were walking toward the car. Their badges were partially covered by rain jackets. One lifted a hand and signaled for Noah to lower the window. Sophie grabbed his arm. "Drive." Noah
Please don't
accelerated
match the
away
register.
as one of
There
the
must be a
men
mistake.
struck
I
the
just
rear
read the
window.
permit.
The
I understand,
dispatcher
but
on
my
the
point is
phone
worded
suddenly
simply.
went silent.
You
Then
saw the
a male
suspect
voice
leave the
said,
premises at approximately
"Pull
10:15
over, Noah."
PM.
It
He
was
wearing a
not the
dark blue jacket and
dispatcher.
jeans.
Someone had entered the emergency call. Noah disconnected and used a second phone mounted near the dashboard to call 911 again. This time, the operator confirmed that no units had been sent to the hospital. The first call had never reached emergency services. Noah drove directly to a busy airport terminal where police were stationed outside. The black sedan did not follow them into the departure lanes. Airport officers separated Noah and Sophie and took their statements. Sophie said she had recently left an abusive husband who worked as a private security contractor. She believed he had access to software that allowed him to track her phone and intercept calls. But when officers searched the name she provided, no record of the husband existed. They also discovered that Sophie's identification was false. While police were questioning Noah, she asked to use the restroom. She entered through one door and never came out. Security cameras showed her walking into the corridor, but none captured her leaving. The red coat was found inside a trash bin. 3 days later, detectives contacted Noah with a disturbing discovery. The apartment building where he picked Sophie up had no resident matching her description. However, security footage showed the black sedan arriving nearly an hour before Noah. The driver entered the building using a key card. Sophie came down 20 minutes later. They appeared to know each other. Police began to suspect that the entire pursuit had been staged to force Noah into transporting Sophie somewhere without leaving a reliable digital trail. The canceled rideshare account, the false emergency call, and the confrontation at the hospital may all have been part of the plan. Noah asked why anyone would choose him. The detective showed him a screenshot found on an online forum. It displayed Noah's rideshare profile, weekly schedule, vehicle information, and typical airport route. Beneath it, an anonymous user had written, "Reliable, works alone, has 2 phones." Noah never discovered what Sophie was running from or where she went after reaching the airport. The black sedan was found abandoned 6 weeks later in a parking garage. Its interior had been stripped and the vehicle identification number had been removed. In the trunk, police found a collection of license plates, security uniforms, prepaid phones, and printed profiles belonging to 18 rideshare drivers. Noah's photograph was on top. A red circle had been drawn around his face. All 4 drivers survived, but each one described the same realization afterward. The ride had begun before they pressed accept. Ethan believed the motel group knew a storm would reduce the number of available drivers and increase the chance that someone would accept a remote trip. Marissa's passenger had photographed her apartment days before requesting her vehicle. Caleb's passenger chose a driver with a camera, then somehow disabled it at the exact moment incriminating evidence appeared. And Noah's schedule had been posted online by people who already knew he carried a second phone. Rideshare apps create the illusion that both sides are protected. The driver sees a name, a rating, and a destination. The passenger sees a photograph, a vehicle, and a license plate. Each person believes the company knows who is inside the car, but accounts can be stolen. Names can be invented, destinations can change, and the information designed to create trust can also tell a stranger exactly who is coming, what they are driving, and whether they are alone. Ethan eventually returned to work, but he never accepts motel pickups after midnight. He keeps the doors locked until every passenger confirms the name on the account. Marissa refuses to drive professionally again. She still has the photograph from the package, though police advised her to destroy it. She keeps it because the man standing across the street is barely visible in the reflection of a store window. Caleb replaced his camera with 3 separate recording devices. None use wireless connections. He has not received another rating from Victor, but once a year, on the anniversary of the ride, an unknown account requests a pickup from the same train station. He always declines, Noah deleted every public profile connected to his real name and changed vehicles. A month after moving to another state, he received a rideshare promotional email. The subject line said, "Your favorite passenger is waiting." Inside was a photograph of a woman in a red coat standing outside his new apartment. These stories did not begin in abandoned houses or isolated forests. They began with an ordinary notification, a name, a pickup point, a destination, and a button that asked one simple question: accept ride.